Okay, so we all know the Bible talks about Jesus, but are there any other historical sources that talk about Jesus? And the answer is yes, there are many other historical sources that talk about Jesus in full length. And one of my favorite ones is by a guy named Flavius Josephus. And around 93 AD, this guy wrote a book called Antiquities of the Jews. And I mean, he writes a ton about Jewish history and Roman history. And in his awesome historical book, he has this whole paragraph dedicated to just talking about Jesus, basically giving us an overview about Jesus. So in his work, Antiquities of the Jews, book 18, chapter 3, verse 3, he says the following: Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, for he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was Christ, and when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men amongst us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him. For he appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. And the tribe of Christians so named from him are not extinct at this day. I mean, so right off the bat, this source over here, it talks about a man named Jesus. It says that he did wonderful, miraculous works. It said that he was condemned by Pilate and that he was crucified by Pilate and that he rose again on the third day. So it talks about a lot. I mean, it talks about how he was crucified for one. And also, Josephus is saying that a lot of people were claiming Jesus was alive again on the third day. And this is a first century historian, Josephus. And by the way, Josephus is not just he's not just some armchair historian that nobody cares about. And make no mistake, I mean, Josephus is a highly respected source among the academic world. I mean, a lot of people consider him to be the best, most reliable source for first century Jewish history. And so if you're trying to find out what was happening during first century Judea, first century Rome, this book is a really good place to start. I mean, this guy Josephus, he wrote about so many things concerning Rome and Judea. So yeah, and it's really no mistake this guy talked about Jesus. I mean, he's just going around recording things that happened during his time. Okay, so maybe now you're thinking, cool, this guy Josephus, he wrote this really cool thing about Jesus, but how do we know that he didn't just use the Bible as a primary source? How do we know that he didn't just draft this thing up about Jesus by reading the Bible and saying, okay, cool, I pieced this thing together from reading the Bible? I mean, for one, Josephus was not a Christian. Let us remember that. He was a Jewish guy, so he would probably not have held to the New Testament, and thus he probably would not have used the New Testament as a source. But the most important reason why we know that Josephus was not using the Bible as a primary source is because he was his own primary source. I mean, this guy was in high places. He knew a lot of powerful people. He had a lot of positions of power. And so he would have known a lot of people in high places that could have told him these things. And so right now there's an academic called Tom Schmidt who's kind of leading the discussion on Josephus and Jesus. And he wrote a whole book where he talks about how Josephus had these crazy connections to Jesus. So his commander, Josephus's commander, a guy named Simon. So Simon and his dad most likely had first-hand knowledge of Jesus, with Simon's dad likely being at the trial of Jesus. And then Josephus also knew the high priests of the time, the head of the Sanhedrin. He knew Jewish leaders of the time. He knew Jewish leaders of the 30s and the 40s, and his dad was 25 years old when Jesus was crucified. And then not to mention that Josephus, he was stationed in Galilee for 3 years. He grew up in Jerusalem. I mean, he spent his teenage years, his 20s, his 30s in Jerusalem. He would have known a lot of people who could have told him a lot of things, And not to mention that Josephus, he was born around the time when Jesus was crucified. So he would have grown up during that time period when that's all everybody was talking about, So he grew up around the Jewish culture of the 30s and 40s, right around the time when Jesus was crucified. But yeah, Josephus was his own primary source. I mean, he knew many people who would have been there at the trial of Jesus. Yeah, no, Josephus is not a secondary source. I mean, this guy is his own primary source. I mean, he probably spent his whole life having many conversations with many people who had a lot of conversations with Jesus, people who saw Jesus throughout their lives. Anyways, I highly recommend you read Tom Schmidt's book, Josephus and Jesus. He talks a whole lot about Josephus and why he's such a cool source that talks about Jesus. You can see it up here. He has it for free on his website, so that's kind of cool. Anyways, if you found this video to be kind of interesting to you, then please leave a comment on this video, because that's how TikTok pushes this video to other people. So if you want more people to see this video, please leave a comment, and then hopefully TikTok will push this video to more people, and then more people can see it. Thank you. And don't forget, the whole point of this video is to tell you Jesus loves you. All right, bye. God bless.